Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. Brock Peterson here, Senior Cloud Solutions Architect with VMware. So this session, we're going to talk a little bit about vRops dashboarding 101 and beyond. That's our title. So as you know, VRealize Operations is the monitoring data analytics platform from VMware, part of the VRealize management suite. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and then jump into VRealize Operations and show you how to dashboard and do some other things. So we'll take a step back first, explore a little bit around what the VRealize cloud management platform looks like top to bottom, where VRealize Operations fits in, and where dashboarding comes in below that. So here's a slide showing kind of the VRealize cloud management suite as a whole. From top to bottom, application operations monitoring with Tanzu observability, down through the VRealize suite, so VRealize Operations, VRealize Log Insight, VRealize Network Insight, True Visibility Suite, Cloud Health, and round it out with VRA, of course, VRA being VRealize Automation. So we're going to focus most of our time today on operations and the dashboarding constructs therein. So I think it's important to know where that fits in the larger context of the suite and the larger context of the VMware Cloud Management portfolio. That said, let's explore the VRealize suite a little bit. 4 products in the VRealize suite: VRealize Operations, VRealize Log Insight, VRealize Automation, and Lifecycle Manager, which allows you to perform lifecycle operations, expose things like content management, have integrations to the marketplace, and do user management. But up top here is where we're going to start. So VRealize Operations has several pillars, lots of different functionality here: infrastructure monitoring, costing, capacity planning, troubleshooting, and compliance. All of those we can use within the context of a dashboard. We're going to explore that in a little bit more detail here in a bit. Below that is VRealize Log Insight and VRealize Automation to round out the suite from VRealize. So let's explore a little bit more within the VRealize Operations platform. What is it? So at its core, the Operations platform is a data analytics engine. It uses that engine to explore capacity, performance type metrics, and then expose it with things like dashboards, content reports, et cetera. So going kind of from the top down here, we have our building blocks within VRealize Operations. So things like widgets, views, supermetrics, alerts, and adapters. So widgets are really the building blocks that we'll use to build a dashboard. And I'll show you what those widgets look like, the canvas on which we build the dashboard, et cetera. Views we use to build reports, as well as dashboards, actually. And I'll show you a little bit of context there when we start building. Supermetrics is just another way for a user or a customer to define a metric. Maybe that's not out of the box. Alerts are just that. They are alerts exposing things like performance problems, capacity problems, hardware failures, or the like. Adapters, of course, are the pieces of code that hit the target, pull that data back into VRealize Operations, let the data analytics engine work on it, and then publish it up. So down below that, 3 very important constructs: dashboards, reports, and policies. So dashboards get all of the attention in VRealize Operations because they expose all of the data. They are the pretty pictures that folks like to look at. Reports, think spreadsheets, generally reports that might come out on a periodic basis, exposing things like performance, capacity, maybe an inventory, et cetera. And then policies are policies or governance around what you might be collecting, what metrics you might have turned on, what you might want to run against certain groups of objects. That's what you can do with policies, a very, very strong construct within VRealize Operations. Of course, that all applies to your on-prem data centers, cloud managed data centers, and the edge. So that's kind of the vCloud VRealize suite as a whole. Now let's look in detail at the dashboards. So as you recall, the title of our talk was VRealize Operations Dashboarding 101 and Beyond. We're going to talk a little bit about what I consider when I'm designing and creating a dashboard. So there's 5 things: design, audience, widgets, interaction, and community. All very important for various reasons. Design. How do you want to design your dashboard? What do you want it to look like? How do you want it to interact with maybe another dashboard? Maybe you want certain widgets to interact with other widgets. Where do you want things placed? How do you want it to flow? All things that you need to consider when you're designing a dashboard. Second, who's the audience? Are you presenting to executives? Are you presenting to managers? Do you want to build a dashboards for operations or tech teams? You need to know who the users are, who the consumers are, and who the providers are. The widgets, these are the building blocks. These are what we spoke about earlier. You'll see in VRealize Operations, there are 44 different widgets at this point. There are some views available to us, and these are the building blocks that we use to build our dashboards. You'll find 10 or so that become your favorites. I'll show you my favorites in the demo up and coming, but widgets are a very important piece of a dashboard. The interaction, how do you want the flow? What do you want the dashboard to interact with? Do you want widget interactions, or do you want self-standing widgets? Do you want the dashboard to move to another dashboard, or do you want it to be standalone? All very important considerations when designing a dashboard. Finally, the community. The VMware community at large is very, very important, right? So around VRealize and dashboarding specifically, there's a couple places that we share dashboards, we contribute to the community, maybe download them, riff on them, make them your own. They are VMware code and the VMware sample exchange. So you'll find lots of different vRops dashboards there. You'll find things like VRA cloud templates, blueprints, VRO workflows, content packs, and the like. Lots of great stuff out there, and I will have a link for you upcoming. So 5 very important considerations. So what does design look like? I mean, what do I mean by it? Here's a dashboard that I built around troubleshooting particular VMs. My design aesthetic is such that I like them to be minimal. I want only the amount of data that a user might want, not more. I don't want it to be too cluttered, because within the dashboarding canvas, real estate is at a premium. I want it to be efficient. I want it to flow properly, generally from top to bottom or left to right. And I want a little bit of context and titles. So there's lots that we can do, and I'll show that in the demo, but lots that we can put into a dashboard just in the title to show the user, hey, what are you actually looking at? Is it CPU usage for a particular VM, or maybe hardware alerts against a particular host? A lot of those considerations can be addressed in the design. Who's the audience? As we mentioned earlier, oftentimes we have executives or managers as a dashboard audience, and they will generally want to see high-level type information. Are things healthy? Are they good? Are they not? So we will use certain widgets within dashboards for executives that show them green, red, yellow quite frequently, right? Are they healthy? Are they not? Do I have alerts that I need to look at? Do I not? Managers, they want to see a little bit more granularity. Maybe they want to see some alerts, and then they want to see health of environments. And operations administrators, of course, want to see details. So oftentimes I will build dashboards for operations groups that they riff on and make them theirs. I'll show you a couple examples in the demo. And then, of course, administrators, they want the most detail. So the previous dashboard, which was the troubleshooting VMs dashboard, is one that administrators might use. They want to know what's going on with disk IOPS, network throughput. Are there any hardware failures, et cetera? We'll give them all of the details that they need within their dashboard. And then we can share any of these dashboards out with whomever we want, right? So I'll show you that in the demo as well. Widgets. These are the building blocks. So as mentioned previously, there are 44 different widgets in the dashboard canvas. There are 4 that I use in almost every dashboard that I do: object list, view, scoreboard, and heat map. There are several that are very, very popular. Some that I use, some that other folks use. When you start building these dashboards, you'll run into the widgets that you like. Object list widget is the very first widget in the list because it's popular. It's very useful, and you can drive other widgets based on it. I've gone from using the object list widget when I first started building dashboard years ago to using the view widget at this point, which is very similar, but it's quite a bit more powerful. You know, you can drive color schemes behind it. You can adjust thresholds, add metrics, et cetera. I'll show you that here in a bit. Of course, the scoreboard and the heat map get a lot of attention because There are various color schemes available here, allowing the user or the dashboard viewer to see right away, do I have some problems or do I not? So these are the 4 that I like to use. There are plenty of others within the canvas and the widget drawer that we'll explore. So as you start building out your dashboards, you'll find your favorites as well. What does interaction look like? This is the interaction tab from a Troubleshooting VMs dashboard. In previous releases, this was a drop-down menu over on the left-hand side. It was a little confusing. It got really, really nice in the 7.x days. So now you have a canvas or a topology that allows you to see sources and targets. So for example, on my Troubleshooting VMs v3 dashboard, the VMs widget at the very top is clearly my source. And I'm driving all of the other widgets below that based on my selection of VM. So whatever VM that I select, all of the other widgets will be auto-populated. And there are ways to do that automatically as well. Generally, interactions are going to work from left to bottom right. So you'll select a VM or an object or an alert or whatever you want top left. You will work your way down to the lower right. Here's the community. So a couple different places to go if you want to contribute dashboards, if you want to see what's available from the community. Code.vmware.com is VMware code, and then the sample exchange is vRealize.vmware.com. Both are very, very valuable. You'll see that customers contribute here, VMware folks contribute here, partners contribute dashboards. A lot of great stuff. This is where I got started years and years ago. I found some dashboards that I like. I downloaded a few of them, saw what folks were doing, riffed on them, and made them my own. And now I contribute many of those dashboards back to the community. So a few different links here. Of course, my email. I have a blog that talks a lot about VRealize Operations, although I do have some posts on VRLI, VRA, Cloud Health, and some of the others. There's my Twitter handle, LinkedIn, and the VMware code link. The vRops community is very, very active on Twitter, right? So we talk about various dashboards or new features, new function. I encourage you, if you don't have a handle, to get one, get out there and see what's going on in the community. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and jump over to my demo. And now we have my demo environment. Now, you should see a VRealize Operations 8.5 UI. For those of you that are familiar with the Operations Manager UI, you'll be brought into a home page. That home page has 4 pillars: optimize performance, optimize capacity, troubleshoot, and manage configuration. Clearly, performance, capacity, and troubleshoot are the first 3. And there are some configurations that we can manage, be it around VMs, hosts, clusters, and we have some compliance management packs as well. Here, we're going to focus on dashboards. So at the very top, dashboards along with home alerts, environment, and administration is a view. On the left-hand side, you will be presented with a dashboards menu. That dashboards menu will list all of the dashboards that you have in your environment. So this was one that I just happened to be working on this morning. I keep all of my custom dashboards in a custom dashboards folder. They can all be managed from the managed dashboards folder. So this is where you might import a dashboard. You might change some of the sharing of dashboards. When you create a dashboard, it's created as your user ID. And then, of course, you have to share that out. But this is where you can manage all of them. Left-hand pane, again, you can search for any dashboard that you might want. So let's say we're looking for some troubleshooting type dashboards. This is one that we explored as a part of our presentation. So it'll take us into troubleshooting VMs v3, which, let me take you through it, and then I'll take you through how it's designed. In the very top pane, is our troubleshooting of our VMs, right? So I have a list of VMs, and then I have a bunch of metrics surrounding that. What's the health of that VM, right? Health in VRealize Operations is based on alerts and severity of those alerts. Is that VM even powered on? How long has it been powered on? IP, OS, is VMware tools up to date? How much memory is being consumed? How much CPU is being consumed? And you can see that these have a color scheme around them. All of that can be done with the underlying widget, which in this case is a view. As I select a particular VM, all of my other widgets are then populated. In fact, this one doesn't have any alerts, but we can see all of the memory type metrics, all of the CPU type metrics, even digging into disk, network, et cetera, et cetera. So how do I build a dashboard like this? It's easy. We'll go to dashboards, create dashboard, and that will take us into what we call the dashboard canvas, right? So up top is our canvas, and then down below is our drawer. So the 44 widgets are down below here. You simply drag and drop them to the upper canvas. So I just grabbed an object list, I dragged it to the canvas. I can grab a metric chart, drag it to the canvas. I can grab a scoreboard, drag it to the canvas, an object relationship, and drag it up as well. As you can see, you can move these around wherever you want, and you can resize them lower right. I want this to be down below. I simply move them around like building blocks, right? So they're only resizable lower right. You find the ones that you like, use them in your dashboard. The object list widget, the metric picker, metric chart, scoreboard, heat map. These are the first 4 or 5 for a reason. They're very popular. They're very powerful. So we have 4 widgets in our dashboard at this point. Now, I want to maybe explore VMs, top left. I want to explore what that VM is attached to, meaning that its data store, its host, et cetera. I want to explore some of the metrics, maybe CPU, memory, disk IO, network, et cetera. So let's configure it to look at our VM. So we will call this the VM dashboard, and we will configure this first widget such that it will only show your VMs. So I'm going to give it a title and call it VMs. We're going to tell it to refresh content, which it's going to do every 300 seconds. We're going to make it a self-provider, meaning it's not being driven from another widget. It's providing data to itself. We're also going to turn on auto selection of the first row. So all of the other widgets will be populated. Now, what do we want to show within that widget? We want to show all of the VMs. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to object types, scroll all the way down to virtual machine. There are 267 of them, and we can actually add additional columns as well. So this allows us to add any sort of a virtual machine type metric or property to our widget. So that virtual machine is being captured by the vCenter adapter. The virtual machine is our object. Now, if we want to capture some properties and or metrics, we can. So say, for example, I want to know how many vCPU are running on it. We can grab the number of vCPU. Maybe I want to know how much memory is allocated. I can grab the amount of memory. Maybe we want to know, are there any alerts against this particular box? And we'll go down to VRealize Operations generated and grab alert count criticals. In this case, just criticals. So we have vCPU, we have memory, and we have critical alerts. Just giving them a different box label, otherwise it will use the default. So now we can go to our widget, top left, and we can expose the columns via the sideways hamburger, lower left. And now what we have is a widget showing me all of my VMs. Is it collecting? How many vCPU are allocated? How much memory do I have? And do I have any critical alerts? Okay, interesting. Now I want to know how that VM is performing. So this is where I will use the Show Interactions tab. So I'm going to drive the object relationship widget based on my selection of VM. I simply click and drag. I'm going to show various metrics via the scoreboard widget based on my selection of VM. I click and drag. I'm also going to show a metric chart just to show a single metric and what that looks like. Click and drag. Now, let's go back to hide interactions. What do we want to show within the object relationship? I want to show up to 2 steps beyond my target. So I'm going to go parent depth 2, children depth 2, save that, go ahead and select one of my VMs just to confirm it's working, and we're off and running. I don't love exactly how this looks. I want more real estate here. So what do? I just drag and pull. So all I'm doing at this point is dragging widgets and kind of resizing them, right? So I want the advanced object relationship widget to show a little bit more real estate because there's a lot of information to show here. And now all of the other widgets will have a bit of real estate as well. So let's go ahead and grab a different VM. Okay, sounds good. So let's reconfigure that object list widget again to capture all of our VMs. So we will go ahead and do that by selecting VMs. We'll go to the output filter, go to object types, and select our virtual machine. We can also add additional columns. You can add various things like vCPU, memory, disk, the various properties from your VMs. You select the adapter that's actually capturing the object, select your VM, and say, for example, you want to add the number of vCPUs, you just grab that metric, go ahead and give it a new box label. Otherwise, it'll use the default. Click save, and you're off and running. So now at this point, you have all of your VMs. You know the adapter type that object is coming from, the actual object type itself, the policy it's a part of, is it collecting, and then that additional metric. So you can adjust the columns that you see here. If, say, for example, you want to get rid of adapter type, object type, and policy, you simply do that. Now, I want to drive the other widgets based on my VM selection. All I'm doing here is clicking and dragging. I click the VM and I go to the destination. Back to hide interactions. Now, if I select one of my VMs, the object relationship widget is populated based on that VM. And in this case, one child and one parent object. If I want to adjust that, I can. I simply jump into the edit of that widget, and I want to go up 2 steps and go down 2 steps. So adjust parent depth and child depth to 2. A few different ways that you can kind of play around with what you're seeing. You can use different trees, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'd like to see is a bit more data here. So let's make these widgets a little bit larger. All I'm doing is dragging and dropping here. So what that allows us to see is a little bit more information. Now, down in the scoreboard, I want to see various metrics. I want to see CPU, I want to see memory, I want to see disk. Let's go in and capture all of them for that particular VM. So we will call it our scoreboard. And I'd like to put in a little bit of information around what's driving that scoreboard. So I'll say scoreboard for selected VM. I'll refresh the content. I will make it 4 box columns, which will give us 4 columns. You can play around with visual themes. Gradient is the newest. Opaque is my favorite because it has a little bit of a color scheme behind it. You can put in a sparkline, which gives us a little bit of data. You can configure that sparkline to be either just dashboard time or whatever time you want. And now you give it some output data. What is output data? That's the data that you're showing for your selected object. So in this case, I'm going to have a VM. And I want some metrics around CPU and memory. So say, for example, I'm just going to grab CPU co-stop, contention, demand, and latency. Now, what do I want to grab for memory? Maybe I want balloon, consumed, contention, and usage. So now I have 8 different metrics, and I can show them all on a single widget. So I'll save that. I will select an additional VM. And now I can see CPU co-stop, contention, demand, and the dark background there is it over time. I can do very similar operations with the metric chart. You'll simply point it at a single metric. So in this case, rather than having multiple metrics, I will look for that same VM. And maybe we just want to look at CPU usage over time. We will call it metric chart for selected VM. Let's go ahead and give our dashboard a title. And we will go ahead and save. And now our dashboard is available for consumption. So you will see the new dashboard. Go back to dashboards, and you will see our new dashboard at the bottom of the dashboards menu. You can select your VM. Once you select that VM, all of the other widgets will be populated, and you can adjust your real estate, the size of your widgets, the arrangement of your widgets at this point within the dashboard canvas as well. So with that, there's a few different ways that we can adjust what you see here. Dashboard timing, top right, we can go from 1 hour, 6 hours, up to 24 hours if you want. And what that does is basically change the timeline for the entire dashboard. Secondly, you can share these dashboards out with the little share icon top right. A few different ways that you can do that. You can copy a URL that you can send out to any user. All they need is a browser to view this dashboard. You can set an expiration on it as well. You can email these out. It gives you a bit of iframe where you can embed this maybe into a Confluence page. You can export it to groups, and you can export the content in and of itself. With that, that is VRealize Operations Dashboarding 101 and beyond. I hope you found this beneficial.